The other phrase we have like in our program is celebrate every win, because
Hmm.
we know there are so many hard things. And so we try to celebrate anything and everything. And sometimes it's just a small thing with progress or growth, and other times it's a big accomplishment. But everything too is like God is at work and God's providing, and He's allowing these small victories and small wins to keep happening and to continue to grow and for us to celebrate those things.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brighter Together podcast. My name is Janet Courtney, and my special guest today is Emily Jeninga. Emily is the Student Support Director at Rehoboth Christian School in Rehoboth, New Mexico. Emily, I think I got it right. Thank you so much for being on the show. And Emily, remind me, we met at CASE, at the National CASE Conference this year. So I am so excited that you took up my invitation and came and joined us on Brighter Together.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
All right. So tell me, Emily, a little bit about your role, a little bit about Rehoboth Christian School, and kind of, what's happening there.
Yeah. So I'll start with Rehoboth Christian School. We're in pretty rural New Mexico. We're right outside of Gallup, New Mexico. And we're right on the edge of Navajo Nation. So majority of our student population are Native Navajo. The Zuni Pueblo is also about 50 minutes south of us. So those are our two closest tribes. But 70% of our students are Native, which is majority of our student population. I mentioned that we are rural. We're like 2 hours west of Albuquerque. Uh,
Okay.
so that's like our closest big city. And Rehoboth has been around for 120 years.
Wow.
It's been a long time. It's had a long, interesting history, good things and bad things. Rehoboth existed through the boarding school era. And there's been a lot of work done to heal and repair different relationships and mend things that were broken during that time. And now, as a school, we're really proud to celebrate our students' culture and who they are as people. And everything that combines to make their identity. Um, I came to Rehoboth 5 years ago. This is my fifth year to um, to start what we call our SALT program. So SALT is an acronym that stands for Students All Learning Together. And we really wanted to put an emphasis on having all students be able to be included in their classrooms.
Nice.
And so we wanted to be able to celebrate all of our students, but also support students who have greater needs and help them be successful within like a regular ed setting. When I came 5 years ago, it was myself. I had an assistant, and we had a high school SALT teacher. So I was teaching K-8 and had an assistant, and then he was doing 9-12 or 9 through 12.
Hmm.
And every year since then, we've grown and adjusted. And now it's really awesome to say that, like, as the director, oversee our SALT program. And we have 3 SALT teachers. So we have an elementary, middle, and high school. And then each of our teachers have at least 2 assistants, with them supporting students
Wow.
within the classrooms with different needs. Yeah, which is amazing. And it's been incredible to see how God has provided the right people and the right funding and the different ways He's supported all of that growth over those years. Um, yeah, funding is definitely a critical component. Um,
Hmm.
which is, yeah, can be tricky at different times. But we started with about 39 students, I think. And right now we're at about 63 students that we
Wow.
support
Yeah, that's a
K-12.
lot of growth. Yeah, that's a double almost, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not quite, but yeah, that's amazing. Wow. Good for you guys. And that's within the 5 years since you've been there?
Hmm.
So were you
Yeah.
the first person to start the salt? Like, did it exist before you, or it's been a creation since you've been there, or they hired you specifically so to get it off the ground?
Yeah, so the year before I came was kind of where the groundwork was laid, where they
Okay.
did the like coming up with our name for SALT, which I didn't go into any of the other meaning behind SALT, but I explained our acronym. But salt was also chosen because it's an important like spice or things for
Mhm.
the native people around us, right? Like you add salt to your meals to improve them. And we believe that having all students be a part of our school improves the education across the board.
Yeah.
So that's part of the meaning behind it as well. But so the year before I came, they did kind of all that groundwork. And there was one person who was kind of serving everybody um, K to 12 with what she could through our
Ah,
federal
okay.
funding.
Okay.
But then she had to move. And then that's when I was hired and our other two staff. And we were really hired to like get things off the ground and get them going.
Wow. And obviously it's going because you're doing it, right? You're getting there and growing, and that's exciting. And it's inclusion, right? It's an inclusive model. So the kids are being with their peers, which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's fantastic. So what have you seen as some of the most positives since you've been there?
that's a great question. um, I think some of the overarching biggest positives that I've seen is just the beauty of like fully diverse classes and students and just seeing how like students are just so welcomed into their classrooms and they're known and they're loved and they belong. And like just the other day, I was helping a student transition into chapel, and this student has a lot of like sound sensitivities and just sensory overwhelm a lot. And we go to his class to meet them to walk into chapel, and his class is ready with like his headphones and his little fidget bag. And they're like, "We know you need these to like do well at chapel, so we're ready for you." And there
Oh,
wasn't
neat.
a blink of an eye, like, no questioning that, like, "That's weird," or, like, "Why do you need that?" It was just like, "No, we know he needs these things to do well at chapel, and so we're gonna make sure he has them." And we've seen that happen in so many different ways in different, like, grade levels, and I think it's just been beautiful to see our students with, like, an ISP get support, but then also see the other students just, like, grow in their empathy and, um yeah, and caring for those around
Mhm.
them.
Yeah, it's hard to understand somebody who's different if you're not around somebody who's different, right? That's why inclusion is so incredibly important. And it's not they see the person. They don't see this is somebody who has a disability. They don't see that they don't just kids are great about not just seeing a disability. They're seeing this person who just is different, needs something different, and very accepting and no kids can be cruel, don't get me wrong, but also they just can't. I mean, they don't, and sometimes they don't even do it on purpose. But they also can be very, very. They don't come with any preconceived notions like we as adults sometimes do, and that's such a great thing. It's such a beautiful thing
Beautiful.
to see. Yeah, it really is, and that's why I love the model, the inclusion model, because it's just so it's just so great. It's so great to see those kids be successful. So, flip side of that question, what are your biggest challenges?
Yeah, another good question. I feel like 2 things kinda come to mind. The first one is just, like, growing pains. Like, in the process of our growing our program growing, like, they're really good things, but also hard things that we didn't expect when, like, we were coming through, and so yeah, thinking about like how do we adjust staffing, thinking about how do we make sure teachers are supported to include students in their classrooms, how and then that leads to my other one of funding, I feel like is one of our biggest barriers and challenges. And our program is heavily funded through donations specifically to our SALT program. And then we also get a certain amount of IDEA-B funding through our public school district. So that funding combined with donations is what allows us to run our program. But especially, I feel like in this day and age, federal funding is just very nuanced, and it's so up and down. And I mean, there was a moment last summer that I was told all our federal funding was on hold until like it was released about a month and a half later. And so it's like we know it's
Mhm.
there, but when are we going to get it? And then
Yeah.
like all the
Yeah.
documentation to prove that we are doing the right thing with the money and things like that is just ever changing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And when you know you're not the ones that are abusing the federal funds, it's maddening because you're just like, we need this. We need this so badly. And yeah, so please send us the money so that we can serve these kids, right?
Oh,
Yeah. So with the you talked about IDEA B funds. Explain to our listeners a little bit about what that is and why you get that money so they understand, because I know not everybody understands the nuances of title funding and IDA funding and all of that. I was asking you a little bit about it before the show because I don't do it all the time. That's not. I mean, I'm a contractor and I'm a therapist. I'm not the finance person, and I'm the one who has to do all of that.
yeah, for sure. And I'll say that has been one of the biggest learning curves for myself personally, is
Well,
learning
good.
the
I'm
ins
glad
and
it's not just me.
yep, yeah. But so Idea B is a subset of the IDEA law that is very specific to private schools. And so, like, the law recognizes that there are students who've been like parentally placed at private schools who do still have um, needs. And so,
Mhm.
there's a certain amount of funding that's set aside for private schools to be utilized to support those students within their school setting. It is not enough to
Mhm.
like or like a full-fledged special education program, but, like, right now, we're utilizing our Idea B funding, to fund our speech therapists, our occupational therapist, PT, and then a couple of the, like, very specific subscriptions we use with our students, um, and so I do, and part of it is also then like documenting which students are getting those, and I have to communicate with our public school district about what students are getting those supports and those services. But that money goes to your your LEA, your local education agency, and then they're in charge of dispersing it to the private schools within their district. Um, so yeah, so it's under the IDEA, like, umbrella, but it's a subset that is set aside very specifically for private schools.
So then you have to go through all of the process of processing and requesting and the paperwork that yeah. Mm. Yeah,
Yeah, so,
if
like,
we
right
could
now, I meet monthly with our LEA to just kinda look at where we're at with funds, how are things going, and just stay in that communication to keep things, like, going as smoothly as possible.
There is a crisis in this country, a massive shortage of special education teachers. We know how devastating this can be for your students, families, and staff. Lighthouse Therapy places experienced special education teachers in virtual, hybrid, and on site roles, and we handle everything from hiring to onboarding to mentorship. These aren't just placements, they're professionals who understand compliance, collaboration, and care. Let us help you fill in the gaps with special education teachers who really understand. We are here to help. Visit lighthouse-therapy.com/brighter together to connect with us today. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Money is an issue. It's always an issue. I mean, we're a We are a family business that is bootstrapped. We don't have any investors. Lighthouse Therapy does not have any investors. And we want it that way. We want to keep it that way. But this time of year in January, schools are off for 2 weeks. They have the 2 weeks in January. And so we always have this dip in when funds are coming through for us. And because I don't have investors and because we're growing, it's like we're in that stretch period where it's like, oh, everything's really tight. And it's like, I wish I had this like big pile of money over here that I could just go, okay. And that's why, honestly, that's why companies my size, as we're growing, we have 3,300 students right now that we serve. Yeah. We're not tiny anymore.
Oh,
We're pretty big in the grand scheme of big, we're
yeah.
not big. But I don't want to be that kind of big because that kind of big does come with investors and boards and those kinds of things. And I'm blessed because we have been able to grow to 3,300 students, and our goal actually this year is 5,000. But and we're going to get there. God's great. God's gracious. God is good. He's got the cattle on 1,000 hills, and he's got the hills too. So I was just quoting him today, and I'm like, Jesus, we need the money. We need it yesterday. So, do what you're going to do. But it's the same thing. It's like you just have to you've got to pay the bills. The bills need to be paid. And our thing also has always been we still pay our people. We're not going to hold back anybody's livelihood because the school hasn't paid us so on time, and it's sometimes it's not even on time. It's just how we pay and how they pay. It's just always, you're just always managing. So I totally get it. Yeah. So what kinds of things would you say, or what would you say to another school that, because I'm seeing this more and more. Christian schools and private schools are really, traditionally were not places where kids could get special education services, and that seems to be a trend that is turning. So what would you say to parents or to schools that are private that are considering stepping into special education? What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah. I want to start with, I think there's something, it's just so beautiful to be able to provide Christian special education. And
Mhm.
when you go back to God created everybody in his own image, and that includes our students with disabilities. And so when you go back to that core belief, it fits so well within a Christian education. Um, but that doesn't change that it can be really hard.
Mhm.
But I guess like some encouragement I would say is it's worth the hard days, and it's worth the work to get through it. And especially like I've had meetings with families who have other students or had other students here at Rehoboth, and they didn't have one or two maybe of their kids because they needed more support. And so
Mhm.
to be able to talk with them and be like, we'd love to have your kid here. Like these are the supports that we can provide. And to just see them be so excited that all of their kids can get a Christian education and all of their kids can be at the same school,
Mhm.
um, is just like it's beautiful. And I would say too that one of the lessons we've learned over these 5 years is just how important the school-home relationship and partnership
Yeah.
is.
Mhm.
Uh, and so, like, when we started too, right, like, there were learning pains. We made probably went down some paths we maybe shouldn't have and got back and different things, but it's so important to have that partnership with families so that what we're doing here at school can also be, like, reiterated at home.
Mhm.
Um, and, like, we just had a meeting with a family the other week, about, talking about autism with their student, and we talked about how, like, we see these things at school, family sees these things at home, but then also talked about it's so important to talk about the student or talk with the student about these things. And we just had a meeting to talk with the student about it. And the student just realized, like, that this doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me. Like,
Mhm.
it's their way to understand my brain and understand how I interact with other people, and God gave me other incredible strengths.
Right.
Like, He gave me
Right.
all of these other gifts, even though these things are really hard. And so to be able to share that with students and encourage them and, like, God made you just the way He wants you to be.
Mhm.
And to
Because he
have
doesn't
parents.
make mistakes. He doesn't make mistakes, yeah. I'm sorry I interrupted you, I didn't mean to.
Oh, no, you're good. But to hear parents say that too, like, I've been in meetings where parents, I think, often feel a lot of guilt for things like, "What did I do wrong? What did I miss? What did" things like that, and it's like, it's not your fault. Like, and we're here to support you and to partner with you and help your child be as successful as possible. And God loves your son or daughter very, very much. And He put all of these people in his life or her life to support them and help them be successful. And I think just being able to, like, yeah, bring in that Christian perspective is so, so impactful and so powerful for these students and families. Um, so I'd say it's worth it.
Mhm.
But it does require a commitment from, like, everybody at school.
Mhm. Yeah.
If it was just me doing this, it wouldn't work. But it's the fact that our principals are on board, our executive director, our advancement, our teachers, like, everybody is all in that this is important and that this matters. Um, and that's also what makes a really big difference.
Yeah, that's cool. That's amazing, yeah. And I love the fact that, you think about, in the past where kids that have had special needs have had to go to a different school. And I mean, I guess I knew that and but to process it and go, they already have something that makes them stand out differently from their other siblings. And then to not even be able to go to the same school as their siblings because they have these needs makes them stand out even more. And it's it's so great that they don't have to make parents don't have to make that choice when they have the opportunity to send all of their children, no matter their ability or disability or neurodivergence or whatever term you want to use. And I love the fact too that we're starting to not always call it a disability because it's not. Some of these kids, they don't have a disability. Their brains are just wired differently, and we have to help them to understand how their brains are wired and help their teachers to understand how their brains are wired so that they can and they're super smart kids, right? Super smart kids. So it's just it's so great to have that option for these kids, and I'm sure that's part of the reason why you're growing like you are because people, and the second you do something well, one family will talk to another family, and then I always tell people, word of mouth is my best form of advertisement. It just is. When people say great things about Lighthouse, people hear that and then somebody else hears it. And that's why we have 3,300 kids, because we do a really good job. And I'm tooting my own horn right now, but that's it. You take care of humans. It's like it's not a board of directors or a board of investors that are somewhere saying, you need to make sure you charge the school this much money so that we can make our investment back. That's not who we are. And just like you guys, it's like every single dime, every single dollar, every single um, donation it's never squandered when you struggle with finances, because you have to pay attention to every single dollar, and as a result, you become and I become very good stewards of God's money because ultimately I tell people it's not mine, it's God's anyway. So I can't take any of it with me. So that's why I say, hey, Jesus, we need the money. It's your money. Come on, but we got a
Uh-huh.
cash flow here. We got bills that people that are waiting for things to be paid for them that are our responsibility. So I've learned over the last 8 years of running my own business and doing it the way that we do it, that you really have to lean on God and lean on the fact that it's his. If I believe that, and I do 1000%, that everything, I always tell people it's not my company, it's God's. I just captain the ship. He called me to do it. So we do it, right? So if the funds aren't there, Lord, you've got it all. So help us to get there and help us to be good stewards of it. So
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yeah, kudos to you guys for, I know it's hard, right, Emily? It's not easy, not easy. Um,
Yes.
if I my mama used to say, "If it was easy, everybody would do it," right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
we do the hard things. Do the hard
Ye
things. Get up, eat the frog, right? Eat the frog. Do that hard thing first.
Yes.
So that's,
Another
yeah, go ahead.
go for it.
No, no, you're
I was just
fine. Go
gonna
ahead.
say, the other phrase we have, like, in our program is celebrate every win, because we know there are so many hard things, and so we try to celebrate, anything and everything, and sometimes it's just a small thing with progress or growth, and other times it's a big accomplishment, and, but everything too is like God is at work, and God's providing, and He's allowing these small victories and small wins to, yeah, to keep happening and to continue to grow and for us to celebrate those
Yeah.
things.
I was talking to my team earlier this week too, and it's like we don't grow in easy times. We grow in hardships. That's when it's easier to be less dependent on God when things are smooth. Being a Christian isn't a Christian just during the good times or the bad times. It's being a Christian. And our pastor was talking about that. It's like being a Christian is everything that you do. If you're doing it right, you're doing it at work, you're doing it at home, you're doing it. It's a part of who you are 24/7. And it was a great sermon. I mean, he was really, and I was like puffing my chest up a little bit because he's like, yes, yes, preach it because I'm doing it every day. I'm fighting the fight every single day. But, I wasn't always like that. It wasn't always, it used to be church was church and work was work and home was home and, just siloed. And when you become a more mature Christian, that's part of it. It's all day, every day. Even when you don't want it to be, it is. You have to live that life and make those choices. So, you know, it was good. It was a good sermon. It was like
Yeah.
it was encouraging for sure. Like, okay, yay, I'm
Yes.
doing it right. Thank you. Now, can you pay my bills? Can you send that payment so
Uh-huh.
I can pay my bills?
Yep.
Oh, but and it gets easier. I think as you mature and you depend on God more and see His provision, more and more and more, and a lot of people say just enough, just in time. It's like that's what God does. He provides just enough, just in time. But you see that and you go, oh, there you go, there it is. Thank you, Jesus, and giving Him all the glory and the praise, right? So anyway. So, let's ask that question. I have this one question I tend to ask people at the end of their interviews, and it's a great question because I talk about the miraculousness of things that God can do. But if you could miraculously fix or have God miraculously fix just one thing in your world, and it can't be money because we talked about money. We know that everybody knows they need money. We need more money, God. We just need more money. If you could fix one thing in your job and never have to worry about it ever again, Emily, what would that one thing be?
Oh, I feel like 2 things come to mind,
Okay,
but I
I'll
have
take
to
two.
pick. Okay, okay. The first one is, well, it kinda goes both ways, but, like, more in-person resources available to our students. Especially, I feel like lately we've had more, like, mental health, social emotional things come up with students, and we just don't have enough mental health professionals in our area.
Hmm.
Um, and so oftentimes we'll get virtual things set up, but that often tends to be not as consistent with some of our mental health people that we get connected with, and so then they'll switch people, and then that's really hard
Mm, that's hard.
'cause
Yeah.
rapport and relationships are so important.
Mhm.
Um, so that would be, like, one of them, and then my other I say this every fall, if I had a magic wand, if I could have one miraculous thing, it would be schedules. And
Ah.
all of my schedules for everything would just be perfect, no conflicts, they would just work with no hiccups. I would have the right people at the right times and the
Mhm.
right places and, um, yeah,
Yeah.
coordinating with so many different schedules and people and professionals is very complicated.
And it's
Um,
ongoing. It's an ongoing issue all year long. I know when I was treating and lead therapist and managing schedules and stuff, it was like I, naively I thought, oh yay, we've got the schedule, we're good. No, 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 no. Something's gonna come up, something's gonna change it, and then you gotta rework it again, and it's like once a month at least we were reworking, always reworking schedules, whether it was the therapist had an issue or school had an issue or something was coming up or there was this event or whatever. It's like, "Okay." And then you just go, it's part of it. It's just part of it,
huh?
right?
Yep.
So, I get it, yeah. Perfect in a perfect world, right?
Uh,
In a perfect world,
yep.
for sure.
No perfect
Well,
world if I had one magic wand.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, Emily, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show on Brighter Together. Thank you so much. You are making the world brighter together with what you're doing. So I really appreciate you stopping at our booth at Case this year and then following through and coming on the show because it's so great to talk to people in all walks of education that are doing amazing things and you are doing amazing things for these kids. So keep it up and God bless you and your efforts.
Thank you.